a topic that I really want to get into here, just because nobody else really seems to be mentioning it, is the highly anticipated, undisputed on the line title fight for Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. That's coming up this Saturday, July 29th, showtime in Las Vegas. Now, this has been brewing for a few years now, and I didn't know if we'd ever see it. I was really hoping it wouldn't be over the hill, just like how Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao was, how everybody wanted to see it for so long, and then when they saw it, it just didn't live up to the hype. This fight, both fighters are still, even though they're a little older, in their primes. There's been no drop off in their game. It's going to be an action-packed fight. This is truly, like, you're looking at undefeated knockout artist. You're looking at the best fighters at their division. This is a legendary one for the generation, and I'm not just saying that because I'm not getting paid to promote this whatsoever. I have no financial gain in saying this fight is one that you don't want to miss. Errol Spence Jr., the truth, the big fish. He's 28-0, 22 knockouts. They're about the same as far as their weight goes. A lot of people make a difference about their height. Errol Spence Jr. is 5'9" and a half. But Bud, Terence Crawford, he's 5'8". You can probably see a little bit of a difference. But honestly, he's not that much smaller like how they try to make it seem. That's the biggest thing you'll hear is that, oh, Errol Spence, he's too big for Terence Crawford. I don't think that's the case. Terence Crawford, he's 39-0, 30 knockouts. So both fighters in that upper 70s as far as knockout percentage goes. And he's got a little bit of an edge on his reach, 2 inches longer than Errol Spence Jr. Now, if you look at their fighting styles, Errol Spence Jr., he's going to come at you. He's not really going to do none of that dancing. He's a precision with his punches, southpaw, and he's got the ability to knock anybody out. And he doesn't really get phased too much. Terence Crawford, he's the athletic, elusive. He's got some ability to wiggle and move with his feet. He's got some good footwork. Now, I really don't know who's going to win this. This is truly a toss-up. It just depends on who you like. And even if you choose somebody, I don't think you can really know who's going to win. And Sean Porter, when you look into what he said, I think it might even be an opportunity where they have a rematch. But if you listen to each of these fighters, I've gained so much more respect for Errol Spence. And not that I didn't have any respect before this fight was announced, but I just didn't know much about him outside of in the ring. I've always just seen him boxing, but he's got more personality than I thought. He's somebody who he's not afraid to make a headliner. So he's the big fish. Strap season. He's coming for that last belt that Terence Crawford has. So currently, if you're not aware or if you don't have the knowledge on this in boxing, there's 4 different belts that you can win in each division. Pretty much. That's just what it comes down to. Instead of just being one belt, one champion, you can have 4 different champions in one sport or in one weight class rather. So Errol Spence Jr., he currently has 3 belts, the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF. But then you got Terence Crawford. He has the other belt. This is a fight here where whoever wins is going to be the undisputed welterweight champion, which nobody's been undisputed in welterweight before. Now, also, Terence Crawford has been an undisputed champion. He's at all 4 belts at the 140-pound weight class. Now at 147 pounds, he could be the first to ever get an undisputed championship status in 2 different weight classes for the male boxers. Now, I'm looking forward to seeing if that's something he can actually accomplish because Errol Spence, he is the big fish for a reason. This is going to be a match where I don't know if he can really knock out Errol Spence. He might just have to win by decision. So if somebody were to knock somebody out, one of these fighters go down to the mat, I do think they'll bounce back and fight back. And it could be just likely that very soon after, the other fighter could fall and hit the mat. So looking at this, between these two fighters, they both have great stories. Errol Spence Jr., if you don't know, he had a horrific car crash and an eye injury, and he had to get his teeth replaced. And it's just to the point where he had to overcome adversity in his own right. Terence Crawford, after he started his professional career, he got shot and had a bullet fragment in his head. He had to drive to the hospital and still wanted to fight. So both of these fighters have overcome adversity. And I do want to say he didn't fight whenever after he had a bullet in his head. But both of these fighters have been through some stuff. And that plays out in the ring. You can get knocked out. You can see the other fighters win a round, and you can still bounce back. And these two have shown that they have the ability to do so, not just in life, but it plays out in the ring as well. They both have been dazed a little bit and come back and still win the fight. So now that's a little bit on their backgrounds, how they both overcame adversity. And we know that their fighting statistics are going to play out, and kind of their styles. It's going to be interesting to see if Errol Spence Jr. can back Terence Crawford down, because that wins points. If you can be the one that's aggressive and putting the pressure on the other fighter, then that means you're going to be looked at by the judges in most cases as winning a round. He can stack up rounds just by doing that alone. Terence Crawford is probably going to have to hold his ground. He's going to have to make Errol Spence miss a lot and use his footwork and his athleticism, because he's that type of dude that he's just a natural fighter. He can switch southpaw. He can go to orthodox, and he can do either. But he's also at the point where in my opinion, when I first heard this fight was announced, I was leaning towards Terence Crawford just because he had that it factor. When you see them fight, I'm a Midwest-born guy, a bordering state of Nebraska. So I have a little bit more of a hometown bias in a way. You know, Errol Spence, he's from Texas. So, I mean, that's still somewhat in the middle of the country, but not really. And I don't know if that played a role in it or not, but I was originally going with Bud Crawford. He had more fights, more of a history of winning just because he's had more fights. And also he had the it factor where he's just elusive, and he has that I can do it anyway type swagger about him. Errol Spence Jr., I want to say he's robotic, but he's going to go in there, give you his best shot. And most people, 28 people in the past, have succumbed to just his stature, his ability to punch you, and his ability to take hits. Like, he doesn't really get hit that much, even though he's standing right there. So it's kind of crazy how he stands there in front of the fighter and still has the ability to not get hit. At least he does, but not often. So for the undisputed welterweight championship, a once-in-a-generation, once-in-a-decade fight that's been brewing for the last few years. Check it out. You don't want to miss it. I did say I was leaning towards Bud Crawford at the beginning. I've wavered a little bit to going towards Errol Spence just because I've realized that he's not afraid. I think I fell into the trap of he's very good in front of the microphone. He does a good job at giving you headliners. He's the big fish, strap season. He talks a little bit more, even though both fighters respect each other and it's evident that they do. He talks a little bit more smack than what Terence Crawford does. So both are family guys. I like them both a lot. Errol Spence, he kind of won me over and just as a fan. But I'm going to go stick with my gut here. Terence Crawford, I think he's going to win. And it's either going to be by decision or I think it'll be a late round knockout. Like you can't knock either one out. If one fighter goes down in the first half of the fight, I think that would be Bud Crawford. If it goes past that, in my opinion, I think he's done enough where his size isn't going to make a difference. He can be more elusive. Um, his size, like he's the same weight, 1 inch shorter, has more reach, so he can dance around a little bit and still tag Errol Spence. I don't really know. It's a toss up, to be honest. But one thing's for sure, this is a fight you don't want to miss. If I had to put my money on it, which I'm not going to in this case, Terence Crawford, Bud, he comes away with the victory. And I'm looking forward to seeing the rematch because this is one where it's legendary. Both fighters have been at the peak prime of their game, of the boxing world in their weight class. It was just a matter of time before they actually met each other. Everybody's been asking both of them, hey, when you going to fight Bud? When you going to fight Spence? And now they finally did it. And that's amazing because both of them could be the A side. I think it's going to be a coin flip, they said, that who's going to actually walk out last. Errol Spence said that he puts the butts in the seats, but Terence Crawford doesn't talk as much, and I think that's probably why. He doesn't go around and visit all the events. He doesn't do the same lip service. So we'll see. Either way, check this fight out. Errol Spence, Bud Crawford, July 29th, this Saturday. And let me know what y'all think about this. Who's going to win this fight?